welcome back, Mindsetters. I know you guys, Bruce just did a little dancey thing for us. I know you guys are also doing it at home because this is such an exciting show. So show us your dance. Maybe even take a picture and send it through because I want to see it. Guys, thank you so much for all the questions and queries that you have been sending through. Bruce has gone through most things on the show. So if you have been listening, you may find that your questions are actually already answered. But if you do have one left that's been niggling you on what he has just done, please don't fear, you can still send it through. Over to you, Bruce.
Great, thanks, Kat. And guys, this is the last segment of the show, so I'm going to wrap up the coal industry and then have a quick chat about the oil industry. Well, the oil as an energy resource. Not that we're a country blessed with oil, but certainly a very topical thing, especially when you start talking about the price of petrol and the price of diesel and all that sort of stuff. It gets really scary. But anyhow, I'm going to sort of conclude by having a look at the uses of coal. Okay, and we've sort of done these. I'm going to go through relatively quickly because most of this has been spoken about. Certainly the first one I've spoken at length about it. We use it for production of electricity, where coal is crushed and then burned in a furnace with a boiler on top of it. A large amount of steam is produced, and this is used to spin the turbines. So that's pretty obvious, and we've spoken about that one. But the next two are slightly different. And this is the one called what we call gasification. Okay, and this is a very important use of coal. Okay, if coal is crushed and then subjected to very high temperatures, okay, very high temperatures, what actually happens is that the coal itself breaks down to form a mixture of carbon dioxide and hydrogen gas. Okay, now that mixture of carbon dioxide and hydrogen gas is what is known as synthesis gas, or also known as syngas. Okay, now it's used extensively in our chemical industry. We use carbon dioxide and hydrogen a lot in our chemical processes. Okay, so we do have some very good uses for carbon dioxide because we can form all sorts of other chemicals from that, and obviously the hydrogen that's produced. So that's what we call gasification. And then the last one, and I spoke about it right at the beginning of the lesson, we talk about liquid fuels. Okay, and liquid fuels is that coal can be changed into liquid fuels such as petrol and diesel. And this is the process that Sasol adopts, where we have what is called our oil from coal industry. Okay, and it uses a very, very fancy process called the Fischer-Tropsch reaction. Okay. I'm not going to go into the detail of that because we are limited with a little bit of time on the show, and I really do want to get through everything that I've prepared for you guys today. So three great uses, okay, electricity, gasification, and the production of liquid fuels. We can use that. Okay, a lot of you guys might say, but surely the fourth use would be having a braai. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, but those are our three main uses of coal in the country. Okay. Right, and what have I got here? I think, oh yes, sorry, I forgot about this. I just want to quickly go over the environmental impact of coal mining. As I said, we've spoken about it. The first one, definitely we chatted about it, visual impact, okay, and what we call landscape scars, and especially our strip mining and our an open pit mining causes these huge holes and rather ugly looking mines in our country. We do try and repair it with strip mining, but open pit mining we know is just pretty much leaves the landscape looking very bleak and bland. And important, it can destroy, sorry about the spelling there, but destroy the biodiversity of the area. There's always going to be some form of environmental ecological impact. And unfortunately, it's one of our big negatives of mining. Okay. Atmospheric pollution. Okay. Large amounts of gases are produced on burning of coal, which pollute the atmosphere. So when we mine the coal and then we use the coal by burning it, we're going to really cause huge amounts of atmospheric pollution. Okay, and specifically, and I did chat or allude to it a little bit earlier, is this thing called acid formation. Okay, and that's very much associated with what we call acid rain. Okay, because the gases that are given off when we actually burn the coal and they're released to our atmosphere. I remember I said there was carbon, there's sulfur, and there's nitrogen. Okay, carbon and sulfur, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, very soluble gases in water. And we know that we've got lots of water vapor in the in our atmosphere. And therefore what happens is those gases dissolve in the water vapor and they produce acids. Okay? And what happens is that sits in our clouds, and when it rains, then the water that comes down from the water droplets is actually acidic. And that now changes the soil. And the soil becomes acidic, and plants, or certain plants and crops and things like that, cannot grow in acidic soils. And therefore you have huge problem in the agricultural industry that are now that's now being severely affected because the crops aren't growing. And therefore we're now affecting the food production. And therefore, what happens? We have to import more food, costs more money, prices rise, and it becomes an absolute nightmare for all of us. Okay, so you can see now there's lots of this impact, this negative impact that the mining of coal actually has for us. And then the last one over here, and we have again spoken about it at length, is our global warming. All right, so the burning of coal produces carbon dioxide and nitrogen oxides, which are greenhouse gases. Also, methane gas is released when coal is mined. Methane is 20 times more potent than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. Now, guys, that's a very, very interesting fact. Pockets of methane gas are always associated with coal. Okay? Why? Because it's the decomposition of organic material. Methane gas is produced through the decomposition of organic material. So therefore, when we mine coal, we release methane gas into the atmosphere. 20 times more potent than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. So you can see now we are very, very aware and conscious of the problems that methane gas actually produces or provides to us in terms of our global warming effect. So guys, there we go, just quickly to run through them again. The impact of coal mining, visual impact and scars, atmospheric pollution, acid formation, okay, in terms of acid rain, and then obviously our global warming. So there now are 4 very severe impacts of coal mining that happens in our country and probably worldwide as well. Okay. Now, Kat, that's what I've got on coal. And I'd just like to spend maybe 5 minutes quickly looking at oil. Okay? And I don't want to spend too long on oil, okay, because we are unfortunately running out of space, running out of time, so I'd rather say. But when we look at an energy resource of oil, okay, how does oil form? Because we've spoken about the formation of coal, but how does the formation of oil form? Now, we know that oil is massively important because we import crude oil and we have to make all our petrochemicals and liquid fuels out of it. Okay, but the important thing is oil is formed in exactly the same way as coal, okay, except that the organic material is laid down in oceans, okay. It is not laid down on land, which plant vegetation and animal remains are going to be found on land. So what we've got now is organic material that's laid down in oceans. So how does this now work? Well, we have 2 main organisms that form our crude oil. Is that we have an organism called a zooplankton, and we have algae. And what has happened over the millions and millions of years of the existence of the Earth is that these zooplankton and algae have fallen to the bottom of the oceans, and they get covered by mud eventually. And what happens is that once they're covered by mud, they now disappear under the Earth's crust, heat and pressure again, and now that's converted into crude oil, not coal. Okay, and that's why a lot of our oil is actually found out to sea. But I know there's always going to be a question, but hang on, aren't there countries that are able to extract oil from land? Yes, there are. But you must remember that millions of years ago, those land masses as we see them were probably underwater, okay? And therefore, the deposits of zooplankton and algae was actually done underwater in the oceans millions and millions of years ago. The oceans have receded, but you've still got the oil that's now trapped underneath, and that's where the oil is actually coming from the land-based. Very interesting is that when we the heat and pressure, okay, produces, okay, all the zooplankton algae produces a very sticky substance called kerogen, okay, And this kerogen is actually what seeps up through the actual porous rock. It's actually it's much less dense than the rock itself, so it actually seeps up. So once this kerogen has been formed, it seeps up, and that's where it's now is found as crude oil. And it sits now in the rock, and that's why we have to drill down through the rock itself to go and find these deposits of oil. Okay. And and crude oil is simply a mixture of hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons is simply a description of organic substance made up of carbon and hydrogens. And the chains of the hydrocarbons can vary quite extensively in oil, from up to 5 atoms in the chain, up to almost or even over 30. Okay, and the interesting thing is that we can talk about what we call natural gases. Okay, natural gas is always associated with crude oil. Where do we find, or what is natural gas? Well, the natural gas is any hydrocarbon that has got less than or equal to 5 carbons in its chain. And as I've said here, that crude oil is this mixture of hydrocarbons, basically from comprising carbons of 2, 3, 4, up to 5 carbons, even up to 30 carbons. Okay, so we've got a large amount of variety when it comes to oil. Okay. So I just want to leave a little bit of time for questions. So, Kat, if you just want to give me some questions quickly.
We have a question about coal still.
Okay.
Is coal used for producing electricity exactly the same as the one used for cooking? If not, what's the difference? And that question is by Mulaudzi.
Okay. Good question. Coal actually has different grades. Okay, so when we mine coal, the mining industry actually separates out the different grades of coal. When we talk about different grades, we're talking about different quality of coal. Okay, some of the coal is very poor quality, some of the coal is very high quality. So what do we do with the different qualities of coal? Okay, well, the low-grade coal, the coal that is actually, let's say, the poorest, or the most poorly formed, is actually, that's what's actually sent off to the Eskom power stations, and they actually use that. The coal that you will use in, let's say, your heaters or anthracite heaters at home is a much better grade coal, okay? And that would then be used because it's going to produce more heat. So a better grade coal is going to produce more heat, okay? And so your anthracite is a better coal, and your top grade coal, your high-end coal, is often used in the Sasol process. It's used in the Fischer-Tropsch to extract the hydrocarbons and be able to convert coal into fuel, into oil.
Okay, talking about the Sasol process, someone asked, what is Sasol? Can you tell them what it means and what it does, just briefly? Yeah,
Sasol is basically an industry in the country, and I'm not 100% sure on all the ins and outs of Sasol, but basically what had happened is that it's an industry that was developed in the 1960s and 1970s, where the technology was developed where they were able to extract oil out of coal, okay, and that oil is being a synthetic oil, okay, and Sasol basically stands for SASOL, the South Africans Synthetic Oil Limited, okay, and the important thing about it is that we're not a country that is able to excavate, and we haven't got our own natural oil resources, so therefore we had to start to somehow try and produce our own oil. And therefore, we are able to synthetically produce our own oil through this oil from coal process, okay? And that is why we are able, if you look around the country and you've got our Sasol service stations, they actually provide petrol and diesel that is made specifically from by the Sasol plants. And we have a couple of big ones. There's one at Vanderbijl Park, I think, and I think there's one at Secunda. Those are the big Sasol plants. So it's a very, very strategic thing, and the technology is actually pretty advanced. And we've done pretty well as South Africans to actually have this technology on our doorstep.
Okay. And there's another question. Do you want another one?
I'll take one more quickly.
Okay, cool. So someone spoke about the gases. Someone said, are all of them harmful to the environment?
The gases produced,
yes,
what?
the ones that are emitted with coal and oil.
Okay, generally, yeah, a lot of them can be. Okay, let's think about oil. Let's say oil, and what do we know about oil? We produce diesel and petrol from oil. Now, when we burn oil, when we burn petrol in your cars, when we burn diesel, okay, we have our combustion products. Now, the combustion of petrol produces some very nasty gases. It produces carbon monoxide, okay? Although carbon monoxide is not a greenhouse gas, it's still a very, very toxic gas to us, okay? And it's lethal to humans in large quantities. We produce carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas, and we produce the nitrogen oxides, which are greenhouse gases. So what do we do to try and minimize that effect? Well, this is where we introduce, and a lot of you guys would have heard of a catalytic converter. Okay, and a catalytic converter, in all modern cars, they're fitted with these catalytic converters, and what these catalytic converters do is that they basically are positioned in the exhaust system of a car, and it uses a substance called platinum, okay? Now, platinum is a very topical subject at the moment, but it's also an extremely expensive metal. And therefore, the catalytic converters actually are going to cost you quite a lot of money, but they convert those harmful gases into less harmful gases.
Okay.
Does protect the environment a bit.
Thank you. Thank you
Good.
for the lesson, Bruce.
Great.
Thank you guys. You guys were absolutely amazing today. And all of you were just so great and so interactive, which is stunning to see. Remember that grade 12s are up next. Make sure that you also can join us for that if you don't want to go. Thank you guys for such an awesome show. Thank you to Liberty. See you guys next time. Bye.